Hello, everyone. Let's rock and roll. My name's Jake, and with me is Phil and Tim. Hi, guys.
Hey, I'm Phil. By the way, spoilers, so I don't have to do it from the beginning, because it always takes a long time with the
Awesome,
editing.
Phil. Awesome,
Good
Tim.
boy.
So
Good boy.
we're talking about a movie
here.
called Little Women. That's the
That's
film
it. We're
this-
just here. Like, that's it.
We're here. What do you want? We
The
arrived.
movie is Little Women, and actually not only Little Women, the 2019 rendition, but the 1994. The big question now is, guys, is this a classic? Have you heard about this 94 version?
I love how
And
we're just jumping in. This is amazing.
This is straight up. Like when you hit play, this is it. Boom.
Well,
Okay.
don't
Well-
forget to play the song at least. God damn.
Oh, yeah, the theme song. Let's go. Johnny? All right, let's bring it down. Let's bring it down.
Very
a
good,
tone.
very good.
So,
Guys,
I just want-
before
I just
we-
want to,
before we-
you know,
before we
raffle up the
compare-
feathers. Raffle
Okay,
up.
fine. But before we
Feathers.
compare, let me tell you a nice little story I had today.
Tell me your story.
All right,
what is your
so-
story?
Here we are. We watched Little Women in cinemas yesterday,
Mm-hmm.
the new one, the 2019 one, which we're pretending is 2020.
Well, it
so,
only came
of
into
course-
cinemas here now. What can we do?
That's true. What can we do?
We have
And
to wait until the
now
world
wait,
catches
now here's
up.
the thing. So what happened was, then we should watch the old one, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Let's watch the old one. I'm there. Jacob's sending messages about how he's watching the old one. And I realize,
Oh, God.
this isn't the one that I'm supposed to be watching, is it?
Well, look. Well, here's the thing. There's 7 adaptions. of
There's
this.
7 Little
7.
Women.
What?
How many Little Women are there? There are 4 of them, right? So 7 times 4. What's that?
That's a lot of
30?
Little Women. But here's
That's
the
a
funny
lot.
thing. It's not like we have a spreadsheet where we've written everything correctly.
No, we didn't. You
And
just said do the old
Well,
one.
listen,
I'm like,
no,
okay.
we do have a spreadsheet, and it's
Let me
written
just
there.
say that. Let me just read out some years. So we have 2019, 1994. We have a 1949 version. We have a 2018 version, which seems like maybe more TV. There's a 1933 version. There's an 87. There's a 78. There's an 18. Wow. Anyway,
Some
go
of those are TV movies and shows, but there's actually 7 proper movies that were made from this. But Philip, in our spreadsheet, there's a little companion movie. It says Little Women 1994. So
Great.
what did you watch?
Cool. Well, anyway, there I go. I'm all the way into watching 1933's classic, Little Women.
Oh man.
So,
And then I look and I see, oh no, what am I going to do? Jake and Tim are going to be mad at me if I don't do this. So here I go. Boom! I'm going to go watch 1994 after watching 1933. So I'm watching so
second.
many Little Women.
You watched.
And I had to watch Beth die 3 times. And this
Good
is
thing you said
tearing me
spoiler.
apart.
dude, that's 3 movies to compare. I think we should play the theme song again. I don't know what else to say. Johnny, the TWOFOLD podcast?
Johnny, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's astonishing, Phil.
That's
and does that mean
hilarious.
You watched 33.
I watched 33,
and
yes,
94.
and 94.
That's
Dude, can you give us some
crazy.
insights that we don't even know?
Sure. Well, I'll tell you that at the, Jacob, come on, you're the one who started this whole affair.
Dude, I'm fine with this. Keep going.
Fine with what?
I'll just have to let you know that both the 33 and the 94 versions they go in chronological order. So,
So
yes, that's
by
true.
the book.
We'll
So
get,
can you
we'll
give
get
us-
into all that good stuff. Let me recap the
Yeah,
story.
give us the story.
Little Women is based on a novel. It's a story about
by
essentially a family.
Louisa May Alcott, Jacob.
What's that?
Lisa May Alcott.
Thank you so much. And it's a story that takes place in Concord, Massachusetts. Correct me if I'm wrong. In the late 1800s, I believe, around the time of the Civil War, mid 1800s.
Oh, so yeah, 19th, and almost end of 19th century, yeah.
Yeah. So during the American Civil War, if I'm not mistaken, and the film
is
centers
correct.
around a family. Actually, two families. One family. Where their last name's March, the Marches,
Yeah, the marches.
which is a family with 4 sisters, right? And the film is named after this, right? Little Women refers to the 4 sisters who find themselves, growing up together, and it's a story about life. They have wonderful neighbors who are wealthier than them. And
Oh, yes.
their neighbors end up being very good friends with them as well during the course of them growing up. One of those neighbors is a young man named Laurie, who is the. Hey, here's a great question for you. Was the old man his grandfather or his father?
His grandfather.
I know this because I watched it 3 times.
And Laurie,
his what was his mom ran away with an Italian piano player, and he disowned them, but they died. So he now takes care of the little. Well, he's not little, but whatever, grandson.
And Laurie grew up a lot in Europe, and he finds himself back in America, and he's finding his way in the world as a young rich man. And the story centers around all their interconnectedness and how these girls find their way in their futures, and what is it? Is it marriage? Who will they marry? Is it other pursuits? All these types of things. And
would you say it's a coming of age story?
It is, I think, in some sense. Yes, it is a coming of age story. The kind of crossroads where you make the big decisions in life. And I think that what makes it interesting, I think, is the setting at this time period and the characters. Really? So anyway, that's the plot. Did I miss anything?
I think generally there's some twists and turns that we can talk about later.
Oh,
but,
let me emphasize
that is the plot.
Before the plot, that is the plot. And so we have, just to make it simpler, the 4 main sisters are Amy, Joe. Help me out here.
Beth, the dead one.
And then
Great.
And you got you're missing the oldest one.
Yes. What's her name?
Meg.
Thank you so much. So those are the 4 sisters, and really arguably the main sister is Joe.
That's Pris's point of view, from her point of view.
Yes,
exactly. So we have those 4 sisters, Laurie, and then we have, of course, the adults, so to speak, like the mom of the family,
the father
Marmee,
of the family,
the father of the family,
aunt of the family,
the aunt of the family, the grandfather of Laurie, and so on.
Weird old professor.
And you forget the Italian man.
The Italian man?
The Italian man?
The Spanish man, sorry.
Wasn't he
German?
you
mean the German man in some of the
Wait,
adaptations?
what? No.
Yeah, he was German in the 94
old one. Okay, so we have to distinguish.
Yes, okay. Anyway, so that's the plot, right?
Can we give can we give shortcuts to which so let's call them I want to call the new one the Saoirse one, because that's
okay. Saoirse one,
and then
not the Greta one, the Greta
Bale?
Okay.
I guess we can go over Bale, the Bale one.
Yeah. Because I think for me, the strangest thing was like all the rest of the cast. Actually, let's not get into it. So those are the ones, right? So that's the Bale one and the Saoirse one. We'll get into it soon. Awesome. I'm trying to blend in, soothe in the listener a little bit.
Oh man, I had a heart attack. I thought I wasn't recording for a second there.
Okay. Oh, dude, so we have those 2 versions that we're covering today, and in this spectacularly
and then there's also
version of
special
TWOFOLD,
edition.
We're going to put everything into a BlendTech blender. Remember BlendTech blenders? When they were
will it blend? Yeah.
Will it blend? That's what we're doing. Do we have a theme song for blending?
And also we have the 1933 one too. Come on. I got something to say.
Phil will pepper it up with the spice.
So if you have something from the 30s version, something interesting, always pop in, Philip. Give us the old-timey ways.
Question number 1, which will kick off this super BlendTech blend special, is for you 2. My question is this. So have you ever heard of this title or story ever growing up, and what are your earliest memories of that?
That's a good way to start, because I'll tell you right off the bat, I have heard of this movie, this story, this book for a very long time. I've seen the poster of the 94 version. I remember seeing Winona Ryder there, and I was like, there's Winona Ryder. But I've never seen it. When we went to watch the movie in the theaters, the Greta...
the Saoirse Thunberg one? We're going to go with the Saoirse one.
Yeah. I didn't know what was going on, so that was great, because I really didn't know the story at all.
Phil, I have a question.
But I've heard about it so often,
Did you, growing up, because I got confused between Anne of Green Gable and Little Women, all seemed like the same thing. Did you ever get confused with that?
Actually, not with Anne of Green Gables, but there's another movie called Seven Women, I think.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. That's the one
Seven Samurai?
that confused me
very
too.
Very different. Yeah. I think it's Seven Women. Maybe it's a... Yes, it is. It is. Seven Women,
also got blended with Pride and Prejudice, even though these are totally unrelated things. Somehow they all seem to confuse me.
Similar thing to me. Like the thing is that these stories, these books, and then their adaptations is like they all came out at the same time. And end of the sort of 19th century, sort of like romanticizing that sort of innocent period. Well, innocent in some parts, like from some, and these what we call them in our family, we call them skirt movies, because like my mom and then my sisters and their daughters, they love these movies, and there's always someone watching or talking about them, and it's Anne of Green Gables and Sarah of Adelaide and all this craziness.
Sarah Plain and Tall.
So yep. So I've never really paid attention to them. Yeah, those kind of stuff. I never paid attention to them because it was always like some girls going, "Oh, Margaret, I can't marry him. No,
Margaret,
no. I can't do. I possibly can't. Oh, we're so
no,
innocent.
he's much too frightening for me."
Yeah,
some of that stuff, and we call them skirt movies because everyone has like 1,000 skirts on. just like layers of.
I mean, I think you could just put all these into period drama.
Yeah. And my mom always go like, I don't really know what's going on, but I love the skirts. Skirts.
Really?
Sounds like my mom too.
That's great.
It's like, look at them. Look at the seamstress, the masters. Oh, I can't believe I wish I lived in those days. It was so great.
Have you seen Phantom Thread, Tim?
Yes. It's a funny movie.
Never heard of that in my life.
Oh, it's great. It's great. You should watch it.
PTA
with, what's his face? Daniel Day-Lewis. Glorious movie. Love it.
Interesting.
Love it. So yeah, that's. I mean, I think seen a bunch of these things probably in the background, but as a little boy, there was zero interest. I think I seen the only like that show, the Sarah, when I was talking about. I think I watched like majority of that with my mom and sister.
No.
What is it? What is
I
it?
was thinking about something else.
Sarah of Road to Adelaide is the show, I think.
Road to Adelaide.
My big question with all these skirt movies or stories, as you
I
call
love
them,
it. Yeah.
Is I always wanted to know like what is the cream of the crop of these stories, and I know that's a very subjective question and a very.
We have to make
question.
like a tournament now. We have to just keep watching them and just putting them on the different pyramid.
I would love to know
like
sort of how you look back in literature and you have the novels that people consider to be classics. I would love if someone told me, what are the classics of this kind of genre? Or if that's even possible. Maybe I'm just asking a poor question.
No. I think this one's definitely. I think this one's definitely classic. I think it's one of the most read books.
Yeah.
And also the Anne of Green Gables. I think these are the main ones that I've heard.
Doesn't it
since
seem
I was
like
a
they're
kid.
in a similar vein?
Cream of the crop.
So Anne of Green
the big
Gables came out in 1908. So later.
Yeah, I think it was
years later. And then obviously, you have other novels like Pride and Prejudice, which I think is a totally different era. That's like early 1800s. That's
but that's different. I think that's also isn't that England? Isn't that England base? This is American. This is the Americana. I think they call like the Age of Innocence or something like that.
So interesting. I don't know about you guys, but Phil, do you remember the Scarlet Letter?
Scarlet Letter. I had to read that for school.
Me too. And that's also an Americana novel. But that's obviously this is a sad tale, I think, the Scarlet Letter.
Well, Beth dies here too.
There's lots of adaptations of that as well.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way,
it has nothing to. Honestly, it's not really period drama stuff. It's kind of like Fahrenheit 244. What is that? Fahrenheit 4.
It's not the same.
It's like 1984. It's that kind of thing. So,
let's not talk about these. Let's come back.
You know what's a funny thing? You know what's a funny thing? To your question, like what did I know? So I know Little Women, and like all the girls loved it and did read it and everything.
Of course.
And in the family, but I've never knew what the story was, anything except from Friends when Joey reads Little Women, and then. I think it's Rachel spoils it from her. She's like, Beth dies. That's the only thing I knew. So going into movies, I knew that Beth is going to die. So I was like,
oh no.
Oh, that's Beth. She'll die.
See, I didn't know any of this, which is great. I actually went in super cold.
Me too.
Watching Little Women.
Yeah, super cold.
Time.
Chilly Little Women.
And I was curious to see, what kind of film would it be? Would it be a film that would be, or a story rather, that is, very gut-wrenching in its, tragedy or sadness, or would it be a tale of warmth and
tale of cozy? By the way, sorry,
that sense. So, guys, tell me this. So we covered that. That's great. Backgrounds. What are our impressions? What I'm curious about is sort of this is the classic Jake question. in going to see this movie, what was your... Yeah, let's just start there. Let's just start with the big guns. What is something that in Little Women, just stood out to you, something that made you feel like, this is interesting. This is something I like or dislike. What is your what is something from the story or from the versions that you that tickled your fancy or not?
Well, the tickling for
let's
my
start
part.
with Tim, because Tim, there was an Instagram story right today.
Wait.
And,
Oh yeah.
Tim in the kitchen with his big knife and his apron. And Emma, your wife, was saying Tim I've been talking about this all day, Little Women, and so that I really was curious, like, the man with the knife. What is he saying? What is he saying? Little Women. And so I'd love to give you the floor here. And
thank you. I'll really
happening?
try hard, because I had really trouble. When you're like, when your brain is firing on all cylinders all of a sudden, and your thoughts are quicker than your mouth, and you're trying to get something across, and you're like, what you're talking about is like miles behind of where your mind already is, and your new ideas in your head are already affecting what you said, and then once you're done, none of it makes sense. So that
I actually don't have that a lot, but you had that, right?
Yeah, it was just like, I was like, oh, so many things. So what I think the main thing that tickled my fan, and we can talk about the specifics like casting,
let's go
kind of
broad,
stuff,
and then we'll go and drill in
was
the details.
The two versions, and then I had to do like research afterwards, like who was the author and everything, because the one thing that watching this was that I was thinking about is that I'm so glad that it was something I didn't think about for a long time, is the sort of feminism and kind of gender roles in society, right? Okay. With women and men, right? Because we live in a city, and this sort of the way that this is portrayed of that time, right? The way think of a woman needs to be a mother, and she needs to get married, and that's her only value, and then something like creativity, something like that's just a personality trait that makes her interesting, but in the end she needs to be a good housekeeper and a mother, and that's it, right? That kind of way of thinking. That's something you don't really, in modern society, you don't come across, right? You don't think about it. So first I was like, oh my god, this is like so annoying. for a bit I was like, the way these girls are thinking and the way they're being brought up, like, and then I was thinking about, but it's something that I know some people that still think like that, right? And in their case, it's something, it could be variety of reasons why you think like that, and you're not, I guess contemporary way of thinking, which is similar to mine, is that society shouldn't choose what your role is based upon your gender. It's up to you to choose it, And some people, do that because of, I don't know, like religious reasons, like a traditional Christian thing, woman was created for the man to serve him, and then the man needs to take care of the woman, right. that kind of thinking. So, and there's two versions of this movie, which one is the 1994 one, which was like a direct adaptation of that book, and it kind of the way that it portrays this issue. There's like little bits when she's like, oh, I should vote and everything, a little bit of like a feminist, of our main character Joe, which is like a stubborn character who's very frustrated with that whole thing. She would rather be a writer. She doesn't want to marry, this kind of thing. But in the end, she marries. Like, it's all ties up in like this romantic thing, and that's like I guess that's the main plot of the 1994 one. But the new one ends in an interesting way and in an ambiguous way. Basically, so there's this whole plot with the boy neighbor really liking her, then he confesses love to her, and she doesn't want to marry him because she doesn't love him like that. She loves him as a friend, like friend zone thing, and she also doesn't want to get married ever, right? But later she even changes her mind. But there's this other guy, this creepy old professor in the 1994 version, or just the Italian man or Spanish man in the new one, that she kind of likes and everything, and she ends up. Well, first she doesn't want to get married, and then there's a scene with the publisher who's publishing her works, who's like, "Well, you can't finish your book like this," You have to get married, and then you go back into the movie, or you skip ahead, and she gets married to the old German/Spanish man. So she gets a happy ending. And I was really curious about this. Like, what is this? Which one's the original ending, and why is this here? So I did some digging, and I found out what's the difference. And would you guys like to know?
Yes.
I think I might know this too, but go on.
Okay. So basically, the author of these books, what was her name again, Phil? I think it's Louisa May Alcott, right?
That's the problem. Like I always get messed up. Louisa.
So let's say
Louisa.
so just say Louisa, right? That's the easy way.
Louis? I don't know. Like
Louisa.
Lisa. I did not hit her.
I did not hit her. So this is based on her experiences. She wrote this. She had 4 sisters.
Yep.
She had a mom and a dad.
You mean 3 sisters?
Sorry, 3 sisters.
That'll be
2 sisters in the end.
Oh, come on.
I'm so sorry.
Keep going, Tim.
So sorry for
Don't
the
get
bad guys.
sidetracked.
Okay. So she wrote the story, and her in real life, she doesn't get married.
That's right.
In the end, and she's
Really?
a bit of a feminist. Yep. No. So in the book, her avatar, her counterpart, gets married, but in real life she doesn't.
Yep.
And I was wondering, and like, what does that mean? And then also in the book, what does it mean? She's in both movies. She's portrayed as she writes these sort of crime, mystery, revenge stories for this newspaper. That's how she makes money when she's in New York. And then she, by her weird old German/Spanish man, he's like, I don't like these. Why don't you write something honest and something better? So then she writes about her experience. So this is very meta. So the real author writes about her experiences, makes a book, and so does her counterpart in the book write about her experiences. Goes to the publisher, and he's like, this is like dribble for women. I can't publish this. but then his kids read and they're like, I want to know the ending. So so he's like, okay, here you can publish, Little Women, and that gets published in the book/movie in the end. But what I read was that it was actually kind of the opposite, that she liked writing those murder mysteries. And she kind of she had trouble kind of writing for women, and she only knew how to write women. I think she even said like, oh, I'm a boy in a woman's body. Like I don't know how to do this. But the publisher convinced her to write this kind of thing for women because it would sell better. So, she was convinced to write the story. And she didn't know what to write, so she just wrote about her experience with her. And in the end, she gives her the ending, which she doesn't have, which is really curious to me. And I kind of understand why they went with that in the end, because as I was watching it, I was like, oh, this is like just some stupid gender role propaganda from the 19th century. Like, who cares about this? Like, I understand some people love it because it's like a fun read, and you're like, oh, when you're a kid, like, oh, I'm gonna be married, and this man, it's like a romantic thing, But I was like, why are we, in this even 2019, why are we like celebrating this? Because like the new movie is like half and half. Sometimes it's like romantic view of this whole kind of life, and then sometimes it's like very feminist, and you see the bad end of that, like her sister Meg, she's like with her kids and she can't buy her dress, this kind of thing. But it was like, so I was like, this old book, but then I read more about it, and like this book actually inspired a lot of feminist moves, even because for that time it was very like futuristic as far as ideas, because in the books the girls never get to amount anything with their talents, but at least they're thinking about them, which kind of led one thing to another. So I think the director of the new movie kind of wanted to put that in there as well, the real life counterpart of that it's it's just a story about this, but her as a real person kind of wanted more and was working for more. She just couldn't put it in her book, but the seeds are there. So that was very interesting to me. So I went through this whole thing, like a whole day of like being annoyed and then reading about it, and it was very interesting. What do you guys think of this?
That's actually really fascinating. What I wanted to say to that is it's fascinating that you viewed the movie like that, because I had the total like almost opposite effect, where I wasn't even thinking. I didn't even see the emphasis on those like gender roles in the film. Arguably, the 94 one is a little more straightforward with like, that's kind of how it is. This is a little more historical. We're just sort of presenting how the book was written. But the new film, I felt didn't even connotate that it was commenting so much on that. And I feel like, to me, the theme and the story wasn't at all about that aspect, how I viewed the film. And to me, the entire story was really about, family, community, the friendships, the relationships between these people, the kindness that these families showed each other and other people. All those things to me were like the central focus of the film. Now, obviously, you had those elements where like, they show this struggle of like, oh man, being a woman at that time, they didn't have all those freedoms and they were limited, so to speak, in those senses. But I think that they were also at least I think more in the new film, that they were like showing how, despite all that, they were really exploring these characters, what they were going to do, right? Because, for instance, the main character, Jo, right? She's very adamant, right, to do her own thing, and I think that's even more of the opposite to what you said, where you felt like, oh man, like some people like this sort of like, oh, everything is how it is, but this character showed sort of the opposite of that. So that's how I looked at the story. I just wanted to say one thing, which is a shout out to the director, Greta Gerwig. I really loved Lady Bird that she did.
I wanted to ask you about that because that was same with Saoirse and Tim. Our boy Tim was in that one as well. So
I really love Lady Bird. I think it's one of my favorite films, probably like recent movies that I went and saw. I saw it in the theater twice, actually. And
what did you like about it the most?
I like her style of storytelling and how she laid out the movie, the vibe, so to speak. I like how she shoots stuff. It's something that it's like the feeling you get when you see a movie for the first time and you don't necessarily know what it's about. And then the first, 10 minutes, you're like launched into this sort of world and you're like, oh, wow, this is like really neat. This is really cool. This is something different, and you're not thinking about it anymore of like a movie. You're just on some kind of a journey. That's how I see it. And I felt like that she did that too with this movie. Anyway, right. So Phil, what are your comments on this? I kind of just blurted out my thing. And
as far as Greta, what's her last name?
Gerwig.
There we go.
Gerwig.
I keep wanting to say Thunberg, but that's Greta.
Greta Gerwig.
And I thought it was Greta Grunberg, and I was like, no, that's not it. It's Gerwig.
Gutenberg.
Interesting when we're talking about that, because I just found out, I made a little discovery that the way that she's shooting these movies, apparently there's a term for it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And it's called mumblecore.
Oh, this is not mumblecore, man. Like mumblecore.
She comes from that.
She comes from mumblecore. Let's see what is
from that.
Come on, guys. I'm a grandpa. Define mumblecore. Let's see. There's some genre of independent
It's exactly
film.
what you think it is. It's where people who are talking. It's improvised. It's very loose, and it's like people just talking over each other, very fast, very
cool.
Basically, natural, which I like. I think there's some really wonderful naturalistic elements that come from that.
Well, the idea is it's indie movies, and the idea is in like what's it called, like blockbuster movies or the mainstream movies, people don't talk like in real life. People don't talk over each other. Everyone says their lines clearly, so you can understand it. While mumblecore is like indie, usually the sound isn't fake, as in like usually you record the actual conversation with a microphone with the room sound. And also it's a conversation. People talk over each other. People make noises. Sometimes you can't hear what they say. And that's like part of the thing. It's not supposed to be clear.
It's almost like a real conversation, right? Where people make mistakes.
Yeah.
And
not to be confused with mumble rap, which is like SoundCloud rappers who go. That's mumble rap. Mumblecore is just. Yeah.
So what were your impressions?
My impressions, well, first of all, I wanted to say that I really liked the movie. It was so good. It was so wholesome.
Which one? Which one of the three? The new one.
The new one we're talking about.
Phil, before you continue,
my first impression.
No, before you go, I have to ask a question. This is like, my question is this. we have to get this out of the
What's
way.
up? Yeah, what's up?
Despite all of your opinions on the movie, which is the better version of these two? If these are the only two versions of Little Women that exist in the world.
For me, it's so clear. It's like that. It's a new one, man.
New one, I agree.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like it's something.
I watched 3 of them, and I'm gonna have to say it's gonna be it's gonna be great as one. That's the newest one is the best one.
I agree.
In my opinion.
That's all I wanted to
I
see.
really liked how natural it was, how much of a bond you could feel with all the people in the movie, and how. And you know what? The movie looks so good too. It looks so nice. The cinematography is great.
So nice. It's nice colors.
It's so warm, and there's like it just.
It very reminded me of like 35mm, but super crisp. It was like weird.
Yeah.
But was it shot on film or was it?
I don't know, because I was
question?
watching and I was thinking to myself, like, please don't be shot on film because I really want this
Just look, I'm gonna
digital,
look it
but
up.
I want it to look like film because it looks good. I think it's film, but because it had that grain, it had those little grain. There's like some white splecks, on the film that when you're watching it, and I was like, it really does look like a film, but I really don't want it to be a film because then, that's expensive. I want to, that movie.
Okay, ready?
So
I'm
good.
here. I'm an IMDb. Ready? Okay.
Okay.
You already got there faster. You bitch.
Yeah. So listen, it says that this was 35mm. This is
Oh,
negative
there you
format.
go. Yeah.
Camera was an Arri cam. I don't know if that's probably.
I think that's an older
Ari,
cam.
yeah.
Arri cam,
Like
sorry.
LT. Yeah.
Laboratory. So obviously they were developing film. Harbor Picture Company, Kodak. Cinematography. Cinematographic process. Digital intermediate 4K. Dolby Vision Super 35.
Sure.
Printed film format 35.
So it's
Nothing
Kodak Vision 3 500 T5219. That's the stock.
that's the stock. Kodak.
Yeah.
So that's the
Nice.
warmth. Isn't Kodak warmer?
Let's see how much
Kodak
it
is
costs.
warmer, yeah. Kodak is a little bit warmer than other.
Like Fujifilm. I know that Lord of the
can you,
Rings was
like-
Fujifilm.
Oh, can I order now?
No. The Lord of the Rings was shot in Kodak and printed on Fuji.
Okay.
Print it on Fuji. I'm going to order it. Let's see how much does it cost. How much is like one reel? I can't.
I'm going to assume that it's like
email them.
$5,000. I'm going to assume it's like
No, it's
5,000.
Real? That's too much.
You have to email them. This is
$5,000?
oh wait,
A reel
price
is
catalog.
about 20 minutes.
Price catalog.
Oh, 20
By the way,
minutes.
30 minutes?
speaking of which, as you asked us which one's better,
Yeah.
obviously, but I think there's some things that were, as far as movie making, a little bit handled better in the old one.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe
like what?
Well, one thing was the ages of the 4 sisters. I think it was a lot more clear because I was really confused in the new one why the youngest one, what's her face?
Amy?
Amy was acting so
say Amy.
weird in the new one.
Yeah,
That was
that's what I was.
confusing.
That's
I agree.
another thing. Yeah, because then when you watch the '94 version, you're like, oh, it's just mini Kirsten Dunst.
Yeah, she's 12 and the
she's
old
a
one is
child.
16. I mean,
And
7.
it also explains, remember that sequence where they're like, you can't come to the ball. It's like, well, obviously, she's a kid, right? And
Yeah.
in the new one, I was confused. It's like, why? What's going on?
And also, a kid would, burn someone's because they don't understand the value of it, while a 25-year-old looking woman.
She was
Acting
like
as a
going
child
full on
would not-
evil. She was like burning
Yeah.
the book.
I thought, is this where this movie's going? Is this what's going to happen? Is it going to be like rivalries? It's going to be
Hey,
like
guys, I have a question. Did
enemies.
you ever feel like them? Because I
Best
had no clue,
fiends.
what Little Women was about. So sometimes I was wondering, like, I hope this movie doesn't go like kind of dark or sad or something.
Yeah, I was afraid of that. I was
Start
always
dropping
bracing
one by
myself.
one.
Yeah, that's what I was
just-
afraid of.
Yeah, like, or just like, let's say this burning the book. Like, I was thinking to myself, like, oh man, like, hopefully
Yeah.
this is going to be something where it's like just a really bad thing she did, but then we continue on with the film. I was thinking, man, what if this is something like, oh my goodness, this is like a torturous family where everyone is hating each other and,
It's just the curses that just start stealing each other's boyfriends, which
Yeah.
they can't. Which they do.
But, no.
It might be this just me, but it's the same thing with the gender roles things that you guys didn't see it. It's like maybe
I
having
didn't
these-
say that I didn't.
Oh no, okay, Jake did. But I'm just saying, like, I maybe it's the conversations that I'm having with people, or maybe it's the things I'm thinking about now. Every time I watch movies like this, like, like when like Beth is sick and they're just sitting there, like, oh, should we drain her? And I'm like, I'm so glad we were over that phase. Like, how could anyone go like, I want to go back to the time of innocence when everything's like honor and you have to speak a certain way. And it's like,
century.
it's like, look at this. She goes visit the neighbors and she dies the next day. I mean, it's, we still have coronavirus now, but still, it's, it's a little bit better now. You know what I'm saying? It's like, it's so, she has red fever. What does that mean? I don't know.
couldn't be happier
She
living
dies.
in the time that I'm living in right now.
well,
honestly.
Go to the doctor, get vaccinated, bam, no more.
Right,
These
but Tim,
stupid
more-
sicknesses.
But wouldn't
Scarlet
you say,
fever.
though, Tim, that you're like talking about two different things? Like, you have one aspect which is like, like let's say in this specific story, right? We're talking about a specific, these specific families and the specific sort of relationships that develop between them, and it's sort of like a tale of, kindness, love.
I know. I'm not saying like the
joy.
criticism
That's what I like
of the
so much.
story. It's like you can, like I'm saying, like you can have that now if you're thinking. But I'm thinking of people who are always like
You
complaining
mean
that
people
the new.
who kind of like package everything into one thing?
It's like they want to live in
Yeah.
that time like it was better then. You know what I'm
right,
saying?
right,
And
right.
it's like
Without like thinking about all these other aspects.
all the other aspects, all the
Yeah.
things they're used to now as as normal and not
So
dying.
for
of-
me, like the funny thing is that they always kind of connect that time period with those kinds of, let's say, those values, or with that kind of mentality. And I feel like that is those are situational elements that you're connecting it because it was back then, and back then they really didn't have that much of a choice to have that kind of freedom of, not freedom of thinking, but kind of like that, because that's how it was back then. Back then there were tighter families. Families were way more important, like biologically.
even just economically,
Communities. So it's different. The focus was on a different place, and that's what created those different dynamics, or I wanted to say dynasties. You know what I mean? It's like it created that different environment, and that's why people kind of put it together instead
Well,
of...
yeah,
which
I
doesn't
think-
mean you can't have it now. That's what I'm saying.
That's right.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
I wanted to say
Nothing's
that I think-
stopping you, man.
Yeah, I think some people tend to just sort of look at things with very broad brushes, which isn't very helpful.
No.
Yeah, because I was
born
thinking
in the
like
wrong
one thing that I did.
Titan, yeah, that's wrong. The
thing
90s,
that-
man, the music was so good.
The,
The drug wars in Los Angeles.
I was
wrong in the wrong, born in the wrong generations.
no, I want to say the one thing that I did like about the movie, especially the newer one, more so, but also I guess in this sense the old one, was that now we're talking about like all these different aspects, how people lump things together, and they they say, oh, I want to go back to this time and stuff like that. But one thing that was interesting, and it kind of reminded me of it in this movie, is that, and I guess maybe this is something I'm sort of learning the older I get, is that there are, of course, many different lifestyles and how you choose to live, and what your priorities are, and what you like to do and what you don't like to do, or what do you value more and what you value less. But one nice thing about this movie is it's like a very nice picture of sort of a very human aspect, which is community, is this sense of that really in the past, like Phil was saying, these things were much more. This was much more of a fundamental sort of aspect, people's lives, were families, and who you married, what family you married into. This was, like you said, an economic thing.
Yeah.
It's where your parents came from, the backgrounds, that all determined, how you were
Like
going to live.
local politics,
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Like who you can marry, who can, what are the rules, how do you court them?
right.
Like this was like basically what your most of your life was. That's what you were
But
thinking
I think
about.
the nice thing was that I think that for me it's like you kind of realize that it's cool to, let's say, like live in a city or be more like urban and sort of like pursue one thing or whatever, but at the end of the day there's something really, really nice about living in smaller communities, because at the end of the day, really,
Of course.
when you have people around you and you have strong relationships with other people, this is what really at the end of the day is a very human thing to do. And this sort of more modern mentality, it can work for sure, but at the same time you also kind of realize like, wow, that's that's not as like, there's something so human about that aspect of community. So that's what I found really.
Yeah. Well, that's good to see a movie that if you are craving something like that and you're not realizing it, to see it there, and then you do something about it.
Yeah.
You can because there's a lot of contemporary ways how to do, like
Of course.
maybe it doesn't have to be family. It's a friends, kind of community
Yeah.
living. People in apartments, helping each other out. Having meals together, that kind of thing. It's something
Yeah.
that it moves from the realms of, oh, this is how it has to be, or, this is how God wanted it, or this is how the rules are, to something, well, this is actually good for us, like psychologically.
Right.
And it's like, there's something that we should maybe work on and not be so, selfish and kind of stuck in, a
that's
very
kind of what I
individual
meant,
kind of world. Yeah.
That, like I said, that's, I'm all for, independence and doing your own thing. Absolutely. But I'm just saying that there's something really human about that element. And like you said, helpful. It's very helpful.
Yeah.
And psychologically,
tribal ways, back to our tribal ways.
You know what I'm saying? Tribal ways.
Sharing the meat.
There's
sharing
a reason
the fire.
why you are psychologically more stable when you are in the tribe, as it were.
Yes. Yeah, tribe of people. And also, it's a little bit difficult because your love interest may end up with your sister.
Okay, so now moving on to more of the film, I wanted to ask. Let's look at the sort of the two versions. And so, first of all, I wanted to say, if I may, that the cast for the new film I really liked.
Okay,
can we go down the cast and compare each of the characters?
Let's do it.
Phil, Tim or Phil, do you have a list?
Yeah, I do. I
have two lists, don't I?
Okay, but you have
let's go.
3, don't you? The 1933.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
You can give us some. Okay, so let's start with the main character, Joe. So I think for me in the new movie, I talked to my nieces who read the book just to check up on some facts, like how is it compared to the movie, to the movies, and it's like she has issues with temper. And she's very outbursts and outbursts of emotions and everything. Joe is. So I think in the new one that's portrayed a lot better because she's very oriented and she knows what she wants and she goes for it. And I think Saoirse's like how she looks and how she acts, I think really fit it as well, as opposed to
Winona Ryder,
who's just like a bumbling idiot. She's not stubborn.
Not a fan.
She's just like,
Winona.
I don't know what I want.
It was very bad because I think the Saoirse's character portrayal was. I think I have no clue what, like you said, you checked with our cousins about like the background of the character in the book, but to me it was like spot on. Very eccentric, very energetic. Very looking bombastic for something else. But yeah, bombastic, very emotional. She portrayed that very well.
Emotions wearing on her sleeve.
Winona Ryder, I forgot she was in that movie when she was there. When I started watching it, I was like, oh yeah, so she's going to be the main character.
Yeah.
Okay.
I didn't think that she was going to be the main character, honestly. I didn't know that. But anyway, I'm going to have to tell you the 1933 one, produced by Marion C. Cooper, by the way.
Really?
You know who that is?
I think so. That sounds familiar.
Co-creator of King Kong.
Wow.
From King Kong came out in 1933, same year. So
Big
the main character,
Little Women.
So the main girl in this one is Katharine Hepburn.
Oh, what?
Okay, well, she's...
poo-poo.
Water spilled?
Tim was so
right
excited.
on my computer.
Katharine Hepburn, my friend. Where do you know her from?
She was Joe, huh?
Damn it.
Yes.
I spilled
wow.
Where do you know her from?
You
Because
okay?
this isn't Audrey Hepburn.
Can we go to
Katharine.
the song for a second?
Okay, sure.
Can we go to the song?
Right.
I have emergency
Jacob,
here.
do you have a song?
Absolutely. I got a track, and I told Johnny, when we were out in the back to play
Just
it.
play the song. Let Tim wipe the thing.
Johnny.
Used to think I was fine on my own. I had a house, but you made it a home. I'll be your light on the darkest day. Just don't love me half of the way. Used to carry the weight of it all. Before I had you there to break my fall. Pay no mind to what our friends may say. Just don't love me half of the way. We're half of the way to being broken hearted. We're half of the way unless you let me in. We're half of the way to being back to the start. So don't love me half of the way. I could see you were lonesome as me. You said you could use some company. I chip away, but your walls don't break. You still love me half of the way. half of the way to being broken hearted. We're half of the way unless you let me in. We're half of the way to being back to the start. So don't love me half of the way. You can act like it's only a game. I don't mind playing the fool, but nobody has to own half of a hand, and nobody breaks half a room. I'll be your lion on the darkest day. Just don't love me, love me half of the way. We're half of the way to being broken hearted. We're half of the way unless you let me in. We're half of the way to being back to the start. So don't love me half of the way. We're half of the way to being broken hearted. We're half of the way unless you let me in. We're half of the way to being back to the start. So love me half of the way. No, don't love me half of the way. No, don't love me half of the way.
Welcome back. That was Noisy Feelings by one of my favorite artists, Ryan Lerman. Thanks,
He's
Ryan.
really cool. He's really wonderful. I love all the
his
music
stuff.
that you bring into these podcasts. We had him for so many times, and they're all
hit the
great.
mic?
Yeah, I hit the mic. So thanks, Ryan, so much. Ryan has
really
a new
good.
record out. It's called, the song is called, let me go back. The song is called Half of the Way, but the record that just came out by him is called Noisy Feelings. Check it out.
Noisy
Ryan Lerman.
Feelings. Yeah.
Pretty rockin' song.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
Yep.
Thank you for bringing that
The
in.
way.
And by the way, if anyone knows, Ryan Lerman also plays with Scary Pockets. He's done
Scary
stuff with
Pockets is good
Pamplemousse. He's
stuff.
also done stuff with Wolfpack. So,
I
mean, come
it's
on.
in the LA circles.
He's
Really
rocking
circle of
hard. He's
musicians.
rocking hard.
Man, I'm pissed off. Aiming for Enrique is playing in Novi Sad and Belgrade.
Yeah.
They skip Bratislava.
I was going to go
I
see
mean,
them,
like,
but then
they need to fire their touring
I
manager.
just didn't go because no one wanted to go with me.
Yeah, that's
And
sad.
you're
man.
not
I
here,
don't even know
Tim,
what this
so I
is.
can't go with
Aiming
you.
for Enrique.
So
I thought it was a
sad.
movie for a second.
Yeah, man. It's
Well,
a
we
great
have to make
band
a-
from
we have to make a-
Norwegian.
We have to make a
lands.
pact then on air that if they're ever coming, we should organize to go see them together.
Yes.
We'll have a listener get together.
Yeah.
They're so cool.
Listener
They're
meet
cool
and
with
greet.
their guitars and drums.
They're
playing
playing
the
right
songs.
now as we
for
speak.
Twofold.
I think we
And-
played them on Twofold, didn't we?
I think so, yeah.
Yes, we did. We played them on episode 4. So yeah, that band is touring now, but they missed my city. And then in Jake's city, they got no one to see it. What's wrong? What about Kerry King? Why is he too bad?
No, I asked Kerry King, and
Who's Kerry King?
Kerry King.
it's my friend.
Who are
from
these
work.
people you're
Tim
talking
called
about?
him Kerry King. He's not Kerry
Oh,
King.
okay.
I don't know his name. So I
And no one wanted to go, so it's really sad.
Damn it. Sad times.
But anyway, we're back, and
So what's been
That was a great
happening,
song.
guys?
What were we talking about?
Yeah,
we
what
were
were we
talking
talking
about. Well, before I freaked out. of
Oh,
the water.
right. Yeah, I was saying that Katharine Hepburn was Joe in the 1933 Little Women.
How is she? Was
we
that
were
very
talking-
1930s? Wait,
She's
the 30s.
honest-
That's a talkie right? Yeah.
This is, kind of, but this is like 1933. So, I mean, like, movies were expanding. They were getting more, the vocabulary of film was evolving. It still was very much wide shots, big setups, not many close-ups. It's all, filmed as if it was on the
this
stage.
is before Kane, right? Before Citizen Kane.
Oh, yeah. Citizen Kane was like somewhere in the mid 40s or early 40s, something like that. This was beforehand, but she was really good. Katharine Hepburn, she was that kind of really energetic, very loud, very full of emotions, very boyish, very, So I think she was
Whose
great.
bright idea was to
Winona
cast-
Ryder.
I mean,
That's
Winona Ryder is awesome, right? I love Winona Ryder, but that's such a miscasting. Like,
It's a very strange casting. And I wanted to say one of the weirdest things about the 94 version versus the new one was, first of all, I want to say that the intercutting was a great idea in the new version of the...
well, after 7 adaptions, you got to do something.
you got to think
You
of
gotta
something,
do
right?
something.
But I
Yeah,
think
because both the 1933 one and the 94 one go chronologically.
Yeah, I think those do.
And the weirdest thing I noticed was in the 94 version, because I watched it after I watched the new one, and we're watching it and I'm thinking like, this is very strange, because basically what's happening is that they're showing these sequences, but they're missing all the critical sort of seams and in-between stuff that make the scenes, that tell us why the scenes are important. Because
What, the 94 one?
yeah, the 94 one. It's just like, and I'm watching, like thinking, but I have this knowledge from the new movie that,
What's about to happen? Yeah.
yeah, and I don't know what's about to happen, but like why these scenes are important, because they actually showed all those parts in the new movie. And in the 94 version, I'm just like, oh yeah, so this has happened, and it's like, well, this is really important. Why are they just showing 2 minutes of this?
Yeah.
A great example, and speaking of Joe, right, the character and the casting, was, remember in the 94 version, in the new version, the Saoirse version, after, what was her name, Beth dies? What's her name?
Yeah, Beth.
After she dies, remember she's like heartbroken that she died. She's lonely because she said no to Laurie. Like, she's just feeling horrible, right?
Yeah,
and that whole sequence of her going up to the attic, it was something that you could relate to. Like, man, like, those times when you are crushed by something, but then you go and still do something that you want to do.
But also, what's great about what's great about this current movie is that it was implemented, these different scenes that are told in flashback, helped emphasize the emotion of what is happening in the current time, which I think is a big strength, and I think was very, very clever.
Yeah, and so then I would say the 94 version with like Winona Ryder, when she goes up to write, I'm just like, I guess she's just gonna go write something, I guess, whatever. Like, there wasn't the feeling. It wasn't
you didn't get it because it wasn't right after the death. But to give some background, but basically, Little Women as it is published now, part 1, part 2. Part 1 was first finished, and that was public. But that was published. That was Pablo Picasso, and then she wrote a sequel. Really? I think it's called The Good Wives or something like that, and that's the whole part.
Little Men, wasn't it?
No, that's the sequel. This was the sequel to the first part, which was then published together as Little Women. Oh. But the second part, which is them, getting married and all that stuff. I think it ends when she goes to New York or something like that. And then the whole other stuff, that's the second book. But now it's only known, after maybe a couple of years, it was all published as Little Women together.
Right.
So there's a big time gap between them. So it's good to have that sort of references, so to understand some of the things. And I want to ask about, since we're on Joe when comparing these two versions, the romances. I think the main difference was that in the new one, I kind of understood her a little bit more, why she refused. Yeah. And I think her scene with Timothy was really, because I think in the old one,
you're talking about the friend zone scene?
Yeah. Because in the old one, it's very true to the books, and people talk in that sort of weird way, like holding your emotions in and being polite. And I think this one's a little bit more modern in a way that they speak normal to each other. Yeah. So even that scene kind of made sense. Like the emotion was there, and you could understand their frustration.
That's why I liked the new version, and that's why I liked the director, like I said, because it had that kind of like you said, contemporary
way to put into it. Yeah.
She knew what was important to
and so
emphasize.
So,
like Christian Bale, when she refused him, he's like, "Oh, you'll love someone else. It's fine. It's great. I'm thankful for this. I'm helpless." Like, who would react to that?
Okay. Well, let's go to 1933 real quick. Let me just tell you about
so
that.
give us the friend zone scene.
Okay, honestly, 1933. According to Wikipedia, it says that this was a pre-code movie. So this is before the motion pictures.
Oh,
of
like
Susan
you could show penos
Movies.
Well, okay, they did.
if you wanted.
Okay, they probably did, but I didn't see any movie that had that. But in this case, it just feels like, again, I'm going to say that this is second best because that scene where, what's his name?
Who? Louis?
The boy.
Lori.
By the way,
Boy, the boy.
I can't. This is Tim doesn't.
Lori.
Tim has approximate knowledge of the names. I just don't know the names.
I have the beginning, what letter it starts on, and then
Go
that's
on,
good
go on,
enough for
Phil.
me.
What do you want to say?
And by the way, I wanted to say that all the characters, you'd think that the girl, Amy in the new one is too old.
The girl.
Well,
and
you
the
watch
boy
this one,
is the
everyone's an
characters.
adult in this in the 1930s.
Oh,
era.
okay. Yeah,
They're all pretending to be younger than they actually are.
awesome.
So they're all adults. So Laurie,
Yeah.
he has this confession, and it's
Yeah.
honestly, and it was told, most of the movie is wide shots and mediums. There's no close-ups, but this one was close-ups right in their faces, and it was okay. Like, you can understand that this is 1933, so it's not mumblecore. It's not going to be natural, but it
Is it
puts in the
transatlantic?
emotion.
Transatlantic?
No,
Or
it's not transatlantic.
No, I was gonna marry you, but I couldn't.
I can't.
You see?
But it did hit the right emotion, because
Really?
you think, like, what I liked about it is that at one point he's just like, it's you'll love someone else and it'll be okay, and she's like, no, it won't be okay, like stuff like that, and then he's like, well then, and then he gets a little bit upset, and then he walks away, and then there's a score that goes dun, 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 dun.
Then he
And
turns
it
to the
was-
Hulk, right?
but in that context it works, and I think that one
that's
was also very
interesting.
good.
It works so much better than the Bale
like,
version,
guys,
which is so
yeah,
weird.
the Bale one is
wasn't-
just so
the Bale
weird.
one, I wanted to say that honestly, like, his whole character, like, I don't know, I just keep thinking that in the new one they really got the characters.
Yeah.
They had this flair, this something in there that made you realize what they were thinking, right?
Yeah.
Whereas in the 94 version, you have no clue what anyone's thinking. And so
Yeah.
Christian Bale is just this this guy who's like
this dude.
clean baby face.
He's just clean
such
baby
a-
face, and he's so nice, but
He's
he's
just
just
like,
everything. He's just a perfect man.
Yeah,
but he's perfect, but he's also troubled. But you don't
You don't
get
know
any of
anything,
the
yeah.
extremes of any of the
want to
things.
say
Yeah.
the
Okay, we should
weirdest-
talk about the other actors. Let's keep
Well,
going.
we're on subject already of
Christian Bale.
Laurie. So
I want
Okay,
to say
so
that-
Laurie, let me tell you, I know this is going to be a strange opinion, but I think the Christian Bale one is my favorite one.
Really?
I can't help it.
because you love Christian
tell
Bale.
us.
That's
I
I
probably
don't know.
Why?
It's just like
hair,
every
you
time
love the
you
hair?
say, I don't know it. It's just like, maybe it's just Christian Bale. Maybe it is.
Do you know what's
what? I'm
funny?
going to confess. Maybe it's just Christian Bale, because it just feels so. It's just so entertaining just seeing him there doing things I don't see him doing most of the time.
It feels like there was a character
So
in
funny.
there that, could have blossomed, the Christian Bale version. But I just felt like it never went anywhere with him.
yeah. Someone tamed him down.
Someone
Like,
tamed him, yeah.
shh, like
I want to
Christian.
say
But
the weirdest
go ahead, Jacob.
variation of the Christian Bale character was like, so at the beginning, right, he's like clean shaven, baby face. By the way, he was 20 years old when this movie was shot, which is insane.
Oh, that's crazy.
And he's like, clean shaven.
How old was he?
20, according to my math, but I'm not good at math, so you should double check it. And he's like, this baby face, right? And then it goes into the weirdest one, which is where he has this goatee. And he's in Paris.
The
and then
goatee!
he's smoking this cigar. And it looks so weird because he's like, he's like young. He's the skinny 20-year-old guy.
With a goatee.
It doesn't fit. Like if he was 30, he would be like, filled out, right? But here he's just like skinny and he's like,
Now, listen, do you guys think that it might have been a fake goatee?
Oh, I
maybe.
think so. Yeah. I mean, I think he
that's
can
even
grow a
worse.
goatee, but I think it's movies. But like here's the thing. It's so funny in the new movie. You start off with that period, right? You start off with him being the bachelor, drinking and courting
Right.
women and being a little naughty boy, and you spend a lot of time with Tim playing him, and you kind of get to know that part. In 1984, there's only one scene with the goatee. Man, there's only one
that's what I'm
scene
saying.
when she
That's why it's
comes
so
when she's
funny.
painting. It's so bizarre. But I have to say
it's
that
funny.
both
But
of
then,
the characters.
you don't remember. After that,
Yeah.
he evolves into
mustache.
mustache.
Which is the best version, probably.
Well, here's the thing that I wanted to say is that in both of these movies, the I guess the evolution of that character, what he grows into, from this boyish, fun little man who's lazy and has no responsibilities, to the responsible man marrying Joe's sister, is that character after that happens is so boring and so weird. Like both of them, like even the characters, like I didn't understand. They just stand around and they smile afterwards. That's all they do. There's nothing to them at all. It's just
It's strange.
What do you want him to do?
I don't know, like who, like that marriage is gonna break. Like that.
Okay.
That seems like way too much of a change for that person, and he's only doing it to get the girl. And then like he's gonna be drinking when he's 30. He's like, I gave it all up for you, my goatee. Now I'm gonna beat you.
The sequel to Little Women.
But that's to me. That's just plot wise. But
Yeah.
even just character wise, it's just it doesn't seem like a real person anymore. It's just what is this? You know,
Right.
it's so funny to me.
The cookie cutter man.
Okay, so
yeah,
that's
but I
Christian
think-
Bale,
yeah.
and in my case, it's Paul Lucas. But honestly, I'm gonna have to be honest with you. The 1933 ones,
Yeah.
after Katharine Hepburn, everyone else kind of just melds into the background. I honestly couldn't distinguish one sister from the other in that movie.
Who had better hair, Christian Bale or Timothy?
Oh, Christian Bale.
I think, hair
Christian Bale was
Christian Bale.
flowy.
I mean, he was nice and, he like, like the
puff washed.
freshly showered, washed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely.
So nice and shiny. Okay, let's go to the other sisters. So we have the oldest one, which is Meg, played by Emma Watson in the new
what
movie.
would you guys think?
Which was originally cast as Emma Stone, actually, but you couldn't make it due to
Emma Stone.
Emma Stone, the
Really?
one
Emma Stone.
person who looks like the youngest, is going to be the oldest.
La
Then
La
again,
La Land.
Emma Watson also looks kind of young for her age.
But I think, and I'm a huge fan of Emma Stone. Everyone knows that. But I
Right.
think she would have been miscast in this. She couldn't make it
She
because of
would, she
scheduling.
would.
I think she's
It would be
too
strange.
she's too much of a Joe for me to
Yeah.
or maybe too much of an Amy to work. I think what's her face.
Emma Watson.
Emma Watson has that sort of homeliness and the simple, because she's the sister that wants shiny, pretty things and a beautiful husband
Dresses.
and dresses and children and other things. I think Emma Watson did a better job than I expected, to be honest. I think she's a little bit outshined by the other actresses. But
I think what kind of threw me off with her was like her accent. Because I think that a lot of
she had a British
lot,
accent, didn't she?
Yeah, like she had some weird blend, and I was thinking like she was one time on this show, talk show, and she was like, well, she's gonna be soon, eventually, someday.
She's gonna be next. Guess.
She'll be like, the retrospective, when she's like 70, we'll all be like, 78, and she'll be like, back in the day. Anyway, back
in the day.
Little Women. She was on this like talk show, and she was like saying like, Harry Potter. She was using the fake American accent. That sounded good, but then I was just confused why this was like some weird blend.
Maybe it was easier to act that way, because maybe she was just doing like a bit, and that's
Because
easy.
all the
but
other
if you have
actors,
to
by the way,
act-
did really good. Like, and we found out that most of the women were not American actresses. They all do really good, especially like Saoirse does an amazing American accent.
Oh yeah, Saoirse's great. But then again, Irish is very similar.
But the 94 accents, what was that? Can you explain to me what that was? Like,
what
the 94 accents, like what is going on there?
They're all over the place.
Blendy
I don't know what's going
zone.
on.
Whose accents? I can't.
94,
From the 1994 one.
Oh, I was bad. I heard. Yeah, that was, I don't know. That was, and also it was shot so flat and lit.
Yeah. So anyway,
I feel like
Meg?
here's I don't know what you're gonna think about this, Tim, but for me, I kind of miss the flat, natural feeling of the 90s, the cinematography that they had for period films in general. Not only that, but like, movies like, Die Hard is 88, but still that kind of, it just feels like it's unfiltered and it's just, that's how it is, that's what it would look like. And they still managed to make it look nice and pretty. I feel like this new movie kind of went into that direction, but did it with that modern flair. And I feel like that's excellent. I don't know. For me, when I was watching the new movie, I was like, this feels like like it was shot in the 90s, kind of, because it had that nice, beautiful, plain look to it,
Yeah, I mean, like that. I understand you, but I think you can do that with digital. It's just not colored. Like go mental with the color.
That's
grading.
the thing. Yeah, and that's why.
But you need a good camera, though, as well.
and lens. That's what
Yeah,
I have
that's
to
true.
say about. What I have to say about the 94 one is just, you're right. I think I agree. It's very typical 90s.
Like TV movie. Like
Mhm.
So let's keep going. So the actress who plays
No,
the one-
who? No, Emma Watson, but her counterpart in the
Yeah.
1994 one. What's her name?
That's what I'm asking you.
Oh, okay.
I know her face though.
I know
I've
her
seen
face too. I thought she was.
plays.
Do you know what?
Wait,
Let's say. Do you know who she was reminding me a lot of? You know the actress who plays I forgot her name, but she's in Groundhog Day. She plays opposite.
Yeah.
Murray.
Yeah.
I kept thinking like
Isn't
that's her,
that-
but then I was thinking like that's not possible.
No, she's
because
too old.
It's 94,
Me
yeah.
too. I was thinking the same thing.
She's too old. But wait. She plays. I've seen her in. What did I see her? Like her face is really familiar. Let's see. So the actress's name is Trini Alvarado, and we know her from. Dude, I don't know her from.
She's
I think she might be
Frighteners,
related
apparently.
to the other actress.
Maybe, but no, I don't think so.
Or they just look, because like I'm looking at known for, it's Little Woman and then Frighteners.
Yeah,
Frighteners. That's
Oh, that's
what
what
I
you-
was thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you guys see Frighteners, by the way?
no.
Yeah. That's the ghost.
Andy
Peter
McDowell,
Jackson, right?
right?
Yeah,
The
yeah.
actress from Groundhog Day. That's her
Okay. So what's her name?
name. Andy McDowell.
That sounds like a.
The world according to Andy McDowell.
I'm Andy McNabb.
Okay,
What?
anyway, let's keep going. Come on, guys. Where do we stop? So we stopped at Meg. So, I mean, not much to
Beth,
say.
I guess.
No, she also looked like the girl from Stranger Things, Tim,
What? No, who?
who played the oldest sister.
Oh, yeah. She's got that like I guess what you mean. Okay, so Andy.
okay.
Yeah, dude, she looks so much like Andy McDowell. They're not related. What? I guess it's another thing. Like, yeah,
Strange.
they
By the
just
way,
look
Andy
like each other.
McDowell's daughter was the hippie girl in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
Oh, what? That's what she looked like. That's what she reminded me of. The kid. Yeah. Oh wow. Okay,
Craziness.
that makes sense. It's confusing.
Okay,
Okay.
let's
Well,
keep
you
going.
were
Let's keep
saying
going.
who's next, Jake?
I don't
Beth.
know.
Was it Beth? Beth dies.
Ah, dear Beth.
We have established that.
Beth plays. Okay. Wait. Also, so Joe
Beth
writes.
dies, Beth plays.
Joe writes. Megs likes pretty things,
Mm-hmm.
and she acts well. That's her character. Beth dies, and she plays piano.
Okay,
I like how you always start with dies. Like that's her description. Like Beth, dead.
She's the one that dies.
Piano player.
I have to show you my notes because it's like Joe
Okay.
like lots of notes. Meg
It's
lots of
interesting
notes.
that
Beth
actually,
dies.
I think Beth. Surprisingly, I think both actresses did a pretty good job from both versions.
The actress in the old one, we've seen her before.
Mhm.
Can you guess
Yes.
where
Romeo
we've
and
seen her?
Juliet.
Yes.
Romeo
yes.
No,
Plus
no, Claire
Juliet.
Danes. Hey, Claire Danes.
She's also in.
She's beautiful. Except in this movie.
Confessions. Except in this
There's movies I know her from: Romeo and Juliet and Terminator 3.
She's in Terminator.
Yeah.
Oh,
She was
you
an
talk, wait,
actress.
we're
Yeah,
having this
Terminator
conversation
3.
again. This is nonsense.
She was
Anyway.
also the voice of San in Princess Mononoke, the main character,
Yeah.
in
Really?
the English dub. Yeah.
and
So what do you want to say,
beautiful,
Tim?
as
You were
Phil's.
like,
No, that's
Yeah.
just talking about Beth. Like, I think in the new movie she had a little bit more to do, and I think she had a little bit more character development.
right.
I think instead of just going there and getting sick from the poor family.
By the way, I want to say again, like, see the 94 one and the new one. Like, see in the new one, they explained it, right? They established her liking piano. They established her making an effort to go play piano at
Yeah.
the place. There's a little
she's shy,
bond
so she
with,
knows-
with the guy
Yeah.
who's like, ooh, you remind me of my daughter. This is great.
Yeah.
And then, when she gets the piano as a present, you're like, this is great. This is so amazing, And
talking about
she's
the new
sick,
one?
so you're sad. Yeah, the new one.
New one's great.
Yeah, but I want to say then the old one, I wanted to explain why it's missing those elements because you just see her playing piano once or twice,
Yeah.
and then it's like at the
Yeah.
end, we have given you this piano, and we should have always given you this piano. And it's like, what do we know? Who knows?
I have a question. So in the new one, anytime someone plays like piano, it's a sort of like this kind of moody, like sounding like Debussy kind of piano playing, right? And it's kind of fits the mood of the whole thing,
Right.
And then in the old movie, anytime someone plays, it's like really upbeat Christmas music.
Christmas music, yeah.
And it's so funny because like in that scene, like anyone plays piano, it's like very romantic. It kind of goes in, and then it's just la 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 la. But I hope that. I wonder what's realistic.
Merry gentlemen. Probably the older one.
Yeah, I think they'll be
You
like
gotta have something happy.
It's true.
in your life.
Yeah. And traditional.
That's what they sing.
music.
They stand around the piano and sing like an exorcist. And then the daughter comes and pees on the carpet.
Or guys, did you guys see the interesting wedding ceremony in '94 where they hold hands and circle around?
Oh yeah. There's the circle thing.
That was
That was
something
cool.
interesting.
Some pagan stuff.
I was
Going
actually
all the way to
see
pagan.
What
Okay.
what if that's a real tradition or not, or just a
I
local
don't know. That's
thing.
crazy. Crazy new land.
New land, new ways.
Anyways, the Native
don't know,
Americans have showed them.
Let's keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah, what we got. So we got last one.
Amy.
The last one, that's an interesting one. Played by I don't know how to pronounce her. Pew. What's her name? Pew. Sorry. I don't know how to pronounce her. And then Kristen Dunst is Tiny.
Yeah, she was
And I
strange.
can see so the old
Florence
one. So the girls, when you start the movie, start off from Kristen Dunst's character. What's her? Amy. She's 12, and I think Meg, the oldest one, is 16 or 17 when they start off. So in the old one, you can clearly see the difference in ages. I think it's very defined, and in the household and everything, which makes sense how she acts as opposed to the new one. But I think they did it to lessen the creep factor.
I think so, probably, because I think if you look at the old one, I guess.
Because
later
she's
on-
like tiny and she's like, oh, I never been kissed. And she's like a little girl.
Yeah.
And then there's Christian Bale with his mighty hair. He's like, I'll kiss
His
you one
mighty
day.
hair.
yeah.
And then he sees her
Right,
again. It's
that
like,
part, right.
you're mine
But
now.
on
Because
the
I
other
can't have your...
token, yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, and there's also the.
I mean, look, but still, you could just take that. That scene wasn't even. I don't even think that wasn't a new one. That whole
No,
scene.
it wasn't. No, there
But
was
see,
no
there we
promise
go,
of the
like-
kiss.
Well, there you
I
go. You
think
could have
it-
just taken that out, and you can still have it like a 12-year-old.
In the new one, I think it was a lot more of him doing. And I think it's got to do... You have her from her point of view, because she confesses his love to him, that she always wanted him, but she couldn't have him because of the sister, and now he's coming back and she can't handle it, that kind of thing. You don't have that in the old one. It's more like he comes and he's like, I want to be part of your family one way or not, and she's like, oh,
Yeah.
maybe.
I mean, both had some elements that weren't in either of the films.
What is your guys' opinion on that whole romantic thing of the sisters and like, what do you think of that? Like,
The sister bro code.
I'm really confused by the Lori and is his name
I'm
Lori?
not
What is his
super
name?
confused, because I mean, the way I saw it was Lori. The way I saw it was that he.
Amy and Lori, yeah.
It's interesting, first of all, because he like sort of grew up with them, right, with the sisters, so they were like friends, and they have that whole history and background. And then when they get older, right, then there's of course the natural question of like, maybe he has, maybe they have feelings for each other, right, because he's a guy and they're girls. But I think, that this is my scientific exploration,
We're
right?
the girls and their boys, and they have feelings for each other.
listen,
Such
listen.
is the way. This is David Attenborough. We have a boy.
But I think that it's interesting because I was wondering about something watching the new film. And I realized, like, this character of Laurie, right? He, in some way, he loves all the girls, right? He loves the family, the family, and all the girls.
Well, I think he loves Saoirse. I mean, I think he loves Joe the most.
No, he does love
his...
the most. I know that, but I'm just saying, like, he loves them all in a sense because they all, grew up together and they're friends. They had all these memories and good times. And they, in the new movie, I was wondering, like, they never really like sort of explicitly mentioned that. And then in the old movie, he actually does explicitly say it, where he says, like, I always, saw myself marrying into, the March family, or being a part of the March family, which is interesting. So that I was right, I guess.
Right.
Which is interesting because, like, it's just like what I was talking about, the olden ways, like, oh, we have to get married. That's the only way I can be part of this family. It's like, you were a neighbor. You were helping them out. Like, it's so funny just because they're older. It's like, we have to be married. That's the only way. That's why I don't. That's why
Maybe
the relationship
that's
creeps me out.
Well, maybe that's just another facet of back then. Well, I mean, you're a young man. She is a young woman.
I think it was less complex, right? It was sort of at least the structure was simpler. It was like, you court.
Well, of course. I mean, you're going you're definitely going to marry them. I mean,
and it's sort of
one
like
of them. You're going to marry one of them.
You'll die.
Right?
You'll be pointed as a freak.
Yeah, there isn't those like multi layers of like I don't know, blah blah, no. It was just like I'm serious. It was just like, okay, we're getting married. Okay, bye, let's go. And
Well, you have to giggle and look away, and then you have to
Exactly.
court them by the I like in the new one when you start off in the movie and they're just in the carriage and there's people just walking around next to the street. Back in the day, that was what you do when you're bored. You just walk up and down the street and say hello. And that's how you check out the stock, the new ladies.
But I think, it was also a lot simpler, a lot easier, right? You just go to town and there's the ball. Like, oh yeah, the ball.
The ball. True. That's why you get to meet everybody in the village.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, like what I was saying in the beginning, it was easier for men not to marry because I was like, oh, he's obviously he would be.
Oh yeah, no, of course
he would be always asked. But by the time he's like 40, he's like, oh, he's doing something. But for women, it must have been so hard if you don't get married.
Hard. And also the time.
If you don't want to marry, what you gonna do? Like how are you gonna display that?
I think
you can't.
Kind of
like
be
a witch,
a bit of an outcast. Yeah,
spinster.
Spinster.
And also, was it fascinating? Also, just the time frame, right? Like, but the funny thing is that arguably, right, even today. I mean, it's different. I think you can make the case, right, biologically for women, it's different. I mean, the time frame. But of course now, obviously you don't have to, get married. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And it's not going to be like, whoa, it's weird. Just be like, okay,
it depends. Cool. Some place it might be still weird,
right?
Like
but I'm saying
and stuff
in general, it's less of a thing. But back then, I think that was a huge deal. Like, I mean, I don't think
because
you could be like
I don't
25.
know. I'm just talking out of my butt at this point, but it feels like maybe
it's Phyllis is talking. Let's listen.
Well, I just feel like that's just way for back then. That's super important. It's important to have that family dynamic to support the next generation and to support
also,
the flow of
here's a question
but
for you
society.
Guys.
But it is in a way you can really look at it as being unfair to the woman who doesn't have a say in it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Here's a question for you guys. I would love to know because I don't know. Is what was the economic situation of the March family? Because
they seem pretty good.
They seem pretty good.
Well,
like they seemed like for those standards, pretty decent, man.
In my research, I have found out. So basically, in the books, so what happens is they're pretty well off. Mm-hmm. Their dad, I think he did something. Basically he inherited money because remember his aunt, his sister. She's like filthy rich.
Of course.
But
the entire movie, I was what's her name? I know this actress. What's her name?
Oh, no.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Yeah.
Ancient Melon.
Okay, go on.
Melon Streep. So
Melon Streep. Yes.
Melon Streep is rich, and so was the dad. But he was like a good man, and I think he would turn into a pastor. And then he also helped a friend who was in debts to pay off his debts, but that kind of put them in a bad situation. So they had to move to this little cottage outside. So they were kind of and then he went to war.
Great house.
It's a great house. Maybe for the I don't know. But so she basically, and then they went to war. So the mom had to support the family and all that stuff. So they were kind of
basically
they started off pretty good, but
so they went from basically high class to upper middle class, middle class.
No, I would actually go from middle class to poverty.
Ah, okay.
But in real life, her dad wasn't a pastor or some kind of, he was actually kind of a lazy man who had troubles keeping jobs and didn't want to do anything.
Right? Did he fight in the Civil War?
I don't think so.
I'm just saying I found it interesting because I think that, maybe they did face struggles, but I didn't get the impression that they were totally in a bad situation. Like they obviously owned a house.
I think the first scene was supposed to with the Christmas dinner, a Christmas breakfast. It's finally some real food and everything. With the dresses she couldn't afford.
Scene, man.
That is true. They did struggle later because remember they were even trying to get money for the train. Remember?
Yeah. She cut her hair to get, and also you had all the stuff basically they had to marry to support the family.
3 movies in the span of 2 days where Jo gets her haircut.
What's the best haircut, Phil, from the 3?
It's the new one. I'm sorry, it's always going to be the new one.
No, haircut when she cuts her hair.
What's the best haircut?
You mean the do?
No, Winona Ryder's one was just normal. It was just a short haircut.
No, the 94 one was the third best. I don't know. I think it's hard. I mean, I like the new one just because of how real it feels. It feels like it wasn't done by a barber.
True.
Oh yeah. It would look
33
like
one, and And the 33 one was, it's stylish.
She
Ah, nice.
Ooh, I'm a classy lady.
Everything is more romanticized in the 33 one.
Yeah,
Anyway,
well, that's the
what
way
other
it's-
characters
Yeah,
do we
what
have? We
else
have the
do we have?
dad. No, Tim, because you watched
Better Call Saul. That was horrible. I could not
Yeah.
concentrate. I was laughing the entire. And the thing is that because of the non-linear
here.
structure, is that he shows up at the very end of the movie, the new one. So you don't see
Yeah.
this dad the entire
I like
time.
that.
And so you're like, who's that? And then Better Call Saul comes in, and I'm like, I can't watch this. What is this?
It's from Breaking
Breaking
Bad,
Bad.
Jacob.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I know him from Maceley. He usually just plays like weasels, and it's supposed to be this homely old man. And it's like, what is this? No, that's bad casting, I gotta say.
Yeah.
But maybe in the 1994 he was too old cast like that. What they brought a grandpa in there, like who's
Dude,
doing
94. Okay, let's keep going. I'll explain what my feelings are.
go,
on
go,
some
go.
of the-
Explain.
Well, let's move on then. So that we said that was that. Let's move on to Marmee.
Marmee. Laura Dern,
So Laura
hands down,
Dern,
best
for
one.
sure.
Best.
Absolutely.
You could feel her struggle.
Yeah.
You could really feel her struggle, and I think in the movie they both say like, "Oh, I have problem with anger as well,
Yes.
but I keep control it." But I think you can definitely feel Laura's. She wants to be the perfect woman. She wants to be the perfect example for the ladies, and she wants to teach them. But you can see inside.
Well, that's what I
she's,
loved
like,
about the new
freaking out.
movie, right? Is that
Yeah.
it wasn't this picture perfect representation. It was like, oh, these are real people with real struggles, and that's great.
Yeah.
That's what I like the best. Yeah, it's
And
real.
Laura Dern, I
More
want to say,
real.
is interesting because I feel like isn't she now kind of getting bigger
The
roles?
Laura Dern
Big.
resurgence.
She's big.
Which is cool.
She's getting noms,
Because,
noms
for
left
me,
and right.
Laura
Noms.
Dern-
Nom-noms.
I just,
No.
for me, it's like I just always remember her from JP. She's
Yeah.
Ellie Sattler.
I don't know. For me, Jib, honestly, like I
With
just see
the
Laura
shorts.
Dern now.
Yeah.
I don't know because I think it's been enough time that I
No,
don't.
no, no.
but-
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that that's like her definitive role. I'm just saying that it's interesting because I feel like maybe a lot of people have kind of forgotten about Laura Dern. Where I've always remembered her from Jurassic Park. So
Yeah, you never forget.
Never forget. Never
and
forget.
so I'm rooting for her. I'm rooting
Ellie
for her.
Sattler.
Every time I see Jurassic Park, I can just think of the description in the book. It's so cheesy. It's like she's a hot, fun assistant,
true,
and she's
yeah.
in her
Yeah,
shorts,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm like, God damn it!
And how many characters in that book look at her legs all the time?
It's just
yeah.
the legs. She's so young and beautiful
Yeah,
to be
she's
an
like, what, like
archaeologist
20 or
or
something,
biologist
right?
or whatever.
And
She's
then Alan Grant's like 40 with a beard and a Hawaiian shirt.
No, but they're not together. They don't have a relationship.
No, they don't.
no.
Yeah, it's
But
purely
still,
professional.
it's so weird
Yeah.
how he describes. We
So I
got
love the
what's
Marmee.
the old quarter at the end. What's his face?
No, what
Dude,
about like the handmaiden? No, the
The hand.
That's another movie.
the old lady
She was
who
really
is helping
similar in
out
both
in the
movies,
house.
by the way.
The whole lady that was helping out of the house.
The
Oh,
house
the
maid.
slave.
Yeah, slave.
That's the slave.
They're fighting a civil war about this. Tim, be a little more.
No. That's true. That's true.
Well, she was very similar, I think, in both. Honestly.
Yeah, I think
That's how she's
again,
great.
new one. She's a little
Honestly,
bit more realistic.
Yeah, less.
It's got
less.
more to do.
So listen, this is what I want to talk about. I want to talk about the grandfather.
Did they even do? They didn't do the theater bit in the '94 one. They just did the practice.
I don't, there was a bit of practice, and they did one scene with the club that with them being men.
Yeah,
Right.
They have to pretend to be men.
I liked the new one better in that regard too.
I think the sentence we should end it with it's like it's amen.
Listen,
And the better, the new one is
yeah,
the better
amen.
one.
But listen,
Amen,
I wanted to say
amen.
that the grandfather Walter,
Oh,
or
yeah,
whatever his
yeah,
name is,
yeah, yeah.
Laurie.
neighbor great
Yeah,
grandfather.
neighbor grandfather. This was so interesting because he's barely in the old movie, and I think he's a pretty kind of important side character.
He's a great character, man.
And he learns as well.
One or
He-
like two of the scenes he was in, I almost cried.
yeah, I mean,
look how old he is. I'm so sad.
No. Like when Beth comes to thank him for the piano.
Oh,
Oh,
yes, yes,
man. Or when he sneaks down to listen to her play, and it's like,
yeah,
there's a lot. I'm gonna admit, there's a lot of places that I almost cried in, man.
that's good.
I mean, he has a journey of his own. He comes from. He's probably learning. Because as I told you the story, disowned his kids and everything, and he's probably learning about that as well.
Yeah, I think
To be
it's
fair,
great.
the 1933 one, at least what's interesting about that they didn't put into any of these is that they made him a little more stern at the beginning.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And so he kind of softens up later on in the 33 movie.
Oh, guys, the tutor.
Oh, man,
the
the
old
tutor.
one, man.
The old one was terrible.
He's so funny.
In the
With
old
his
movie.
hair and his
And what was
little
up with the
beard.
sunglasses? Come on.
I don't know.
That was ridiculous.
The tutor.
What about the
tutor.
Italian man?
You mean the Spanish slash
Italian.
German?
He
Let's
can't
talk about
be
this. So listen,
Spanish.
so first of all, casting for him was pretty good, I think, in the new one. Made sense age-wise. Okay, different man, exotic. And it's like, whoa, what's
Can
this?
I give you? I ask about this in the book. So, and so I'm asking so how does he described in the book? Because in the old one they went for really old, and the new one they were normal.
couldn't
And
stop
this is how
staring
he's
at his
described.
slacks.
Okay, I'm listening.
He's like, it's basically he's not pretty nor is he ugly. He's not old nor is he young.
Amazing.
Not interesting or nor is he. It's just like the most generic man.
Sounds like
But I
this
have to
character
say-
was added just to make that ending happen.
It was so
Yeah.
weird though in the old movie. I couldn't get over the age difference. It was just
Yeah,
like, what?
yeah.
Like
So
he's a
creepy.
50-year-old man and this 20-year-old young girl. And he's like, I'm a nice guy and stuff. And it's like,
I'm a nice guy. I'll take you to. I have no money, but I'll take you to the opera.
it's like it doesn't
Oh, the
make
opera
any
scene is in
sense.
1933 as well.
Oh, really? Like them being hobos? Yeah.
Hobos.
And he's like,
He's
oh,
like,
but
we're
I'm so
going business
old.
casual. Mostly casual.
But I don't like your writing. You suck.
yeah, you suck.
Oh, that was great. That's like pretty much in.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, but
I think there's two of them actually.
But
in
anyway,
the,
In the
what-
1933 one, he's Italian as well.
okay, so he went from
Oh wait,
Italian
so
to
all-
German.
so he's all the country.
And the new one, I don't know what is he in the new one. What
I think he's
nationality?
Italian. I honestly think that's the Italian accent.
That's
but
the OG
I might
one?
be.
Ah,
I don't know if it's the OG one, but the one in 33 is honestly. I'm not an accent expert.
let's
but
see.
To me,
What's his
it's-
name? What's the old
Friedrich.
man's name?
I mean, that's not Italian.
Friedrich Bach.
Friedrich.
That's German. No,
Friedrich Bach.
it just says a
That's Little
professor.
Woman Wiki. Oh man, crap! This is like a Wikipedia from the 1994 one.
I want to see.
Yeah, he's supposed to be German.
Oh,
Then why is he Italian? Never mind. I'm done.
Wait.
arguing
And the
about this.
new one. I want to look at an article.
mm-hmm.
Damn it.
Anyway, while you research, let's keep going.
Yeah.
So, who else didn't we cover? I think we covered most of the cast at this point.
Yeah, I think we got the. I mean, there's probably all kinds of
Yeah.
side characters.
Okay. But the actor Louis Garrel,
He's
is
French.
Okay,
That's right.
that's one. Maybe he was French in that one.
Maybe.
I don't know anymore.
I don't know either.
Yeah, I guess I don't know why they switched it.
What are you doing?
Paco, no,
He's moving my backpack.
don't need Johnny, don't need Paco. Email us, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah,
people,
email
people
us.
listening. Tell us all
So-
the nationalities that Friedrich is.
Yeah, I think we covered
Friedrich
everything.
Nietzsche.
I would imagine, and very cool.
We'll
very
never get
cool.
behind this.
So this movie, I think, won some awards. Maybe I don't follow.
Did it
Maybe.
win?
the
I don't think it
Oscars,
did. Maybe
I
got
don't
some
know.
noms, but I don't
Noms.
think
Some
that's
Nom
wins.
noms. So I was listening
Any
to
final thoughts?
another. Anyway, I was listening to this podcast with Scott Corelli, who used to be on our Matrix
Mhm.
podcast, and he was talking about this was his number one favorite film of 2019,
Mm.
and. And look, I'm talking as if I'm getting this from the source, but I'm getting this. I'm getting this from
Secondhand.
Scott Corelli in a podcast, from him reading something from the actual event. But what happened was is
Okay.
the way they were trying to make the movie was Greta Gerwig
Mhm,
was
mhm.
Mm-hmm.
trying. I got the last name right. Was trying to get the sister characters and the actresses to bond. So she encouraged them to spend time together and make inside jokes together and things that they wouldn't tell anybody else in the crew, and kind of get that kind of natural feel of them being sisters.
It's very cool.
Mhm.
And what's interesting about that, and I love that, and and Scott Corelli was comparing it to what happened in Black Swan, apparently, where the director, what's his name? Come on, dude. You know this. He did The
I
Wrestler.
do,
He did Requiem for a Dream.
I can't remember.
His name is
Wikipedia.
Brother
save
John.
us. Save us. Save us. I can't.
No one's looking, all right? No one's just...
No.
okay. Darren Aronofsky.
Hey, there we go. That's
So it's the opposite of what Darren Aronofsky was doing, and he actually was trying to... This is weird, and I don't even know if this is true or not, but he was trying to get Natalie Portman to think that Mila Kunis was saying bad things about her, so they would have attention and not be friends.
Every time
I don't, and to me, I don't like that kind of method directing. In my opinion, I feel like it's always better to do something where everybody's collaborating and everyone's friends instead of making them. And apparently, Natalie Portman and Mila Kunis were sitting together at a cafe or something while they were filming, like in between, and they said, "Hey, did you say those things?" And she said, "No." Did you say bad things about me? No. And then they realized that it was the director trying to get them to to be enemies.
I don't get that. Like, like in The Shining when Kubrick was harassing poor old Shelley Duvall, and she almost lost her mind, and he was just being mean to her just to stress her out, so she looks stressed. And that's not good. That's not hire actors who can act. Don't.
It's called acting. Someone said that.
Don't do this.
So what are you guys' final thoughts?
There was an actor who said that. It's just like, act. That's what you're here for.
Yeah.
I would recommend Little Women 2019. I think it's a great film. I think you should go check it out. And if you're interested, you can go watch the 94 one, but not recommend it necessarily.
Yeah.
I really wouldn't necessarily.
I mean, you
recommend it.
probably could if you're interested in Christian Bale's amazing hair.
Yeah. But it's funny. I
and
think
maybe you just want to see it in chronological order just for fun.
If it wasn't for the podcast, I think that if this movie was something I would like, oh, let's go see this, I would really probably get bored, I think.
I'm also surprised.
I don't know. See the 1933 one if you I don't know.
What? If you don't know? What happened? You guys here? I lost you.
Phil.
Oh no.
Oh, Phil's dead.
Never mind. I'm getting tired.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay,
I think it's...
So what do you guys
I think
think?
Jake's wrapping it up.
Come on.
What?
Any final things or no?
I was surprised that I was not looking forward to seeing this because it's a skirt movie. But due to the things that I've talked about, I was surprised at how interested in this. I don't know still how I feel about the movie. I think it was definitely interesting, the new one. Maybe I'll see it again sometime later. Maybe I have a clear mind and
Fair
some of
enough.
the things.
And then
Some of the things clear out of my head, and I
next
can
time,
watch
don't
it.
hold the knife. Yeah.
Don't hold the knife. Don't stab
Next
the movie.
time, don't hold the knife.
Yeah. Phil,
What?
just if you want to wrap it up with some final points.
Yeah.
Pinpoints.
Something.
Yeah. If you want to have a wonderful, wholesome time watching nice people struggling and being nice to
Beth
each other, and Beth dying, please watch it. It's really nice and heartwarming and emotional, and it's shot really well. Except some people were complaining about the close-ups of her eyes. Remember the Saoirse Ronan Joe eye
Also,
close-ups?
Tim, did you
Remember when
notice
she
that
kept opening
there's
her
a couple
eyes?
of shots at the beginning of the movie that are digitally stabilized?
Yes, I wanted to talk about that one too. Good, did you mention it?
I did not know. Which shots were those?
Like in the carriage at the beginning with Amy and the aunt,
Ah.
and you could see a little bit of that stabilization going
Did you
on,
stab?
and then you have a little bit more. Yeah, and I thought me and Jacob were seeing like 3 occurrences of that at the beginning of the movie, and we thought, is this supposed to be a stylistic thing? Is this going to keep going?
And then it went
But
away.
it didn't. So yeah.
So I guess that's
I
the
must have
last
been
minute.
busy eating my popcorns. I'll wait until the home release and I'll check it out.
Yes.
Check out that
So
stab.
thanks, boys, for talking.
Oh, by the way, I think Thomas Newman's score is the best one from the '94 one.
Yeah.
I loved what's his name? Come on, Tim, you like this composer.
Who? What he did
For the new one.
Oh, really?
Federico Bocelli Kelly.
No, he's Italian, yes.
Really?
He's Italian.
He did yeah. He did your favorite Godzilla.
Alexander Desplat.
Yeah, I liked his music for that one, but I kind of liked the one in '94 better. I don't know, a little bit more. That's me.
Interesting.
That's that.
I mean, Max Steiner.
Music.
Dude, Max Steiner did 1933.
Oh, that's pretty big. Man, we should have a
King Kong.
should have a-
He's the progenitor of like modern movie scores, man.
That's
We should have a what?
We should have what Phil wanted. We should have a special, maybe talking about some scores.
Yeah, we should. Tim, we have like 3 specials we need to still record. We need to do these.
The specials are
that's true,
coming
that's
up
true.
soon, so wrangle up those ding dongs.
We got to talk about the Godzilla soundtrack again.
Some specials. Thanks everyone for listening to the TWOFOLD podcast. This has been a TWOFOLD podcast productions with me, Jake, Phil, and Tim, and we will see you
next 2 weeks. It's
with
me.
Phil
I have to
hosting.
figure out
Phil.
what to watch.
taking the pics.
What are we watching, Phil?
Beats me. I have no idea.
We're watching Beats Me, I Have No Idea. The movie in theaters now.
See you then, everyone.
Bye bye.